Welcome back everyone. Now in this video we are going to start with texturing our objects, but before I do that I want to make a few adjustments. And the first adjustment I want to make is that, you see, for the door, this particular frame I have here is a really little object, right? So I realized that I can use one material for the door and the frame, so I really don't need to use a different material for the frame. Okay, so what I'll do is that I'll just delete the material that's assigned to the frame itself, and that's the door underscore plastic. So I just remove this, okay, and I make sure that I assign the door underscore base to the frame. Okay, so I just click on it and make sure the door frame is selected, and then I click on assign, and that's all for these ones. Now I select the whole thing and I click on file, I click on export, and then navigate to my project folder and I replace it with the door underscore window. Make sure to check limits to selected objects and I export. Now that's all for this. The next thing is in the floor. So I select the floor and I isolate the floor. Initially I said I was going to look for textures in fab, okay, for the floor, but I realized that if I do that I'll be passing up the opportunity to talk about something, and that's high poly to low poly baking. Okay, so I changed my mind. I'm going to texture this in Substance Painter, and it's going to make a lot of sense later. But for now, this is what I want to do. Okay, first of all, I will duplicate this floor. I just move the duplicate to the side. Now this is floor, but I rename it to floor underscore low. Now for this, I rename it to floor underscore high. Now our floor is going to be made of tiles, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to model tiles in the floor underscore high, right? And I'm going to bake the details in Substance Painter. More on that later. But to do that, I just click on my floor underscore high and I tab into edit mode. And I'm going to subdivide this. So I just right click and click on subdivide, and I increase the number of cuts to maybe 7. Yeah, 7 will do, okay? And in my floor underscore low, I tab into edit mode and I do the same thing. I use 7 cuts and just leave it like that. Now I come back to the floor underscore high, and now I'm going to insert these faces. So I click on I. I'm going to have to click on it twice, and I use a thickness of 0.005. Okay, now I move the faces up by a value of 0.005 and I hit enter. Now I have these, and this looks like tiles, right? But you see I have about 337 vertices for the floor underscore high, and I have just 81 vertices for the floor underscore low. Well, when I'm exporting this to Unreal Engine, I'm going to delete all these vertices. But for now, I'm taking it to Substance Painter. And that's just the reason why I have these vertices here. So what I'll do for the floor underscore high is that I'll still click on it and I will add the bevel modifier. So I come to generate and I add the bevel modifier because I want this to be really high poly. Okay, I want it to have a lot of details. Okay, so I just do geometry and I just uncheck clamp overlap. All right, now I change the value to 0.001. Okay, and I increase the number of segments to 2 or maybe even 3. Good. Now I apply the bevel modifier. Okay, now the next thing to do is to export these meshes, right? So I click on my floor underscore low, okay, and I click on file, export, and I export it as FBX, and I limit to selected objects. Now this I call floor underscore low, okay. Now I hide this. Now I reset the location of the floor underscore high and click on file, export, FBX, and this is called floor underscore high. So we are done for now. We can now go into Substance Painter. Welcome to Substance Painter, guys. So since I made adjustments for the door and for the floor, I'm going to start with those two. So right away, I just click on file and click on new to create a new project. And you see I click on select here to select my FBX file. And I'm going to start with the door. So I click on it and then I open it. Now for the door, I'm going to leave my document resolution to 1K. And my normal map format is going to be DirectX because Unreal Engine uses DirectX. And I leave everything here as default and I click OK. Now my mesh is imported, and in case you're just new to Substance Painter, you see navigation in Substance Painter is a little different from Blender, okay? In Substance Painter, if you want to rotate your viewport, you just click on Alt and you left click to rotate your viewport. And if you want to translate your viewport, you just click on Alt and middle mouse button. If you want to zoom, you just click on Alt and right mouse button. That's the very basic for now. We'll go into more later, okay? So the first thing I want to do is that I want to bake my mesh maps, okay? So I just click on texture set settings and I scroll down to where it says bake mesh maps and I click on it. Now what I like to do is that I like to change my ambient occlusion secondary rays to 128 and I leave every other thing as default and I bake selected textures. Now my baking is done, so I just return to painting mode, and I'm going to start with texturing right away. So the first object I want to texture is the door and the window, okay? So I come back to my layers here, and I make sure I select the door underscore base right here, okay? And yeah, by default, you have a layer here, so I just delete this layer. And for the door base, I'm going to use the smart material, okay? So I just click on my smart materials icon here. And now Substance Painter provides us with a lot of smart materials we can use as starting points to texture almost any basic object, right? So for this, I want to use wood. So I search for wood, and I see that I like this wood arcajo. I hope I pronounced that right. Okay. So I just click on this and I drag it to my layers tab. Okay. Now this is what I have. Now right away I'm going to change the color of this because I really don't like this color. And I'm going to make other adjustments too, okay? So I click on this folder icon to open up the Smart Materials folder, right? And for the base color, you see, I don't like this color here. Now, I want to mention that I'm going to use a particular color palette for my project, right? And you see, I use a website called coolors.co to generate a color palette. Now, I have this color palette and I like this color palette, okay? Trust me, there's a lot of color palettes that you can generate from this website. So I encourage you to generate your own color palette, but just watch how I use this color palette for my entire project, okay? So for the door, I want it to have a dark color because the paint on the wall is going to be a light color. I'm going to use this color for the paint. So for the door, I want this color, okay? So I just click on this icon to copy the color hex here, okay? Now I come back into Substance Painter, and for the base, I just select gradient. Now you see these two colors make up what you have here, okay? So I just select the first color and then I paste in that color that I copied, and I do the same thing for the second. Yeah, so I want my door to be this color, okay? Now the second thing I'm going to change is the direction of the wooden fibers that you have here. You can see at the moment they're going in a horizontal direction, okay? So I want them to go in a vertical direction, okay? So first of all, I'm going to start with the wood fibers large. I'm going to hide this to see what it does, okay? And I will just check if I can rotate the direction of this. You see my rotation is currently set to 0. So I change it to 90 degrees, okay? And now you see that it changes from horizontal to vertical, right? Now for the wood fibers medium, I'm going to have to change this too, okay? So I click on the mask this time, right? I believe I'm going to have to change the direction of the directional noise, right? So I change the rotation from 0 to 90 degrees. Yeah, and that causes some change as well. And for the wood fibers as well, I'm going to change the rotation. Now, since it's at 90, maybe I'll just change it to 0. Okay. And yeah, that is good. Now, I really don't need these tiny wood fibers. Okay, so see the wood fiber small, this particular layer, I'm going to delete by just hitting delete. Okay, so yeah, more like it. So my door is looking good at the moment. Okay, but for the frame that we have here, I want to give it the light color. That is this particular one that we have here. Okay, so I just copy this color hex, and now I come back to Substance Painter, and for the base, I can duplicate it by hitting Control D. Okay, now you see I've copied it, base copy 1, and for this I can just call it glass frame. Okay, because this is going to be the frame for the glass. Now I'm going to change the color of this to the white color that we have there. Is it white? No, it's baby powder. Well, powder is technically white, so yeah, white. I'll just paste it here, and instead of pasting this time around, you see I can just select this eyedropper icon, okay, and just click on this color, and it copies the color. Okay, now for this, I'm going to add in a black mask, right? So I just click on this icon and I add in a black mask. Okay, now I'm going to use a polygon fill for this. Okay, so I click on this icon. This icon is the polygon fill icon. Okay, when I click on this icon, you see that now I can select the polygons that I want to be white. Okay, and to the right, you see that I have 4 options. Okay, the first one is a triangle fill, the second is a polygon fill, the third is a mesh fill, the fourth is a UV chunk fill. Okay, so let me try mesh fill and see if it helps with the whole mesh. Now you see it helps to select the entire mesh, okay, because this is a separate mesh on its own. So mesh fill is just going to select the whole entire mesh, and that is okay for now. Now for these, I also don't need the dirt that we have here, and this is caused by the wood fibers medium. Okay, you see if I hide the wood fibers medium, you see that, yeah, this gets cleaner, right? Well, I might even delete it for the whole door itself. Wait, let me see. I think I really don't need this, okay? Yeah, so I'm really just going to delete the wood fibers medium too. Yeah, and I think I like this, okay? Just a really simple material. And yeah, you can see all the roughness going on. And yeah, for now I like it, okay? By the way, to change the direction of the lighting, all you have to do is click on shift and click on right click and then move your mouse around. You see, it changes the direction of the lighting. Yeah, so I think I can call it day for the door base for now. If I have to make some adjustments, I will come back later. The next thing I want to texture is the door underscore metal. So I just select the door underscore metal and I delete the default layer. And yeah, I'm also going to use the smart material for this. Okay, so I'm going to search for metal. So you see there's a lot of metal for us to choose from. Okay, well, for me, I'm going to use steel dark aged. That's this particular one we have here. I just click and drag. And you see how this looks good already without any complications, okay? Yeah, so this is good, okay? It's also a tiny detail that I'm not going to spend much time on. And you see that, we also apply the same door underscore metal material to the handle of the drawer. So you see it's been applied here nicely. Now, the next object for me to texture is the bookshelf, right? So for this, I'm still going to use wood, right? So I just search for wood here. And yeah, I'm still going to use the wood arcadjo because this makes a lot of sense, okay? So I just click on it and I drag it. Now, this is a good starting point, right? So I'm going to open the folder. And for these, I want to change the color immediately, okay? So I just come to the base and click on the gradient. Now, I've gone ahead and I've looked for a color palette to use for the bookshelf as well, okay? I encourage you to look for a good color palette to use. You don't have to make yours like mine, okay? So for the color palette, I want the base color to have a hex value of F5D7BD. Okay, I cancel it. All right, now, yeah, for the base color, we are good, okay? Now, I'm just going to copy the color to the color 2, okay? So I just click on the eyedropper icon and I copy the color, all right? Now, this is good. So the next thing I want to do is to change the rotation of the wood fibers, right? At the moment, they are rotated oddly, okay? So I'm going to start with my wood fibers large. I just click on it, and for my rotation, I change it to 90 degrees. Good, okay? Now for my wood fibers medium, I just click on the mask here, and for the directional noise, I change the rotation to 90 degrees as well. Yeah, and for the wood fiber one, does this make any difference? No, okay? So now coming to the wood fiber small, for the white noise, does it make any difference? Well, not necessarily for now, but I'm going to change the direction of the wood pattern, obviously. It's at 90 degrees, so I'm going to change it to 0. Okay, and this makes sense. Now I'm going to check this again. Yeah, it doesn't really make any difference, okay? So I'm just going to leave it. But yeah, our wood fiber small still look too big, okay? So for this, I think I'm going to change the pattern to 10. That's right, 10, and yeah, this is it. So yeah, this is good, okay? Yeah, I'm also going to change the color of the wood fiber small and the wood fibers medium, okay? So I'm starting with the wood fibers medium. I just click on the layer and I come to the color here, and I'm going to use a hex value of E8C9AB, okay? And for the wood fiber small, I'm going to use the same hex value. So I'll just click on it and click on the base color and input the hex color E8C9AB, okay? And I cancel. So this is how I want my cupboard to look, okay? It's a light color. Another adjustment I can make is that I'm going to come to my wood fibers large because I believe that's what's causing all this whitish color we have here. If I uncheck it, yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'm going to make some adjustments here as well. Now this for the balance, I think I can adjust the balance, right? Yeah, you see, adjusting the balance also changes it a little bit. I think I can leave this at 0.3, right? And for the tiling can be really small, maybe 0.005. This looks like it's been erased completely. But it doesn't matter. It's still good, okay? It's still good. And I can adjust the balance. Maybe I can leave the balance at a value of 0.5. Yeah, so this is it, okay? I love the look of this. This looks beautiful. So that's all for this group of objects, guys. Now, when we come to texturing our table, our desk, and our chair, I'm going to use a material that's similar to this, okay? So instead of going to repeat the whole thing. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to save this smart material, okay? And to do that, first of all, I just renamed it. Maybe I can call it Wood Classroom Project, okay? Really just name it anything so you won't forget it, okay? Now I click on the smart material folder. I right click and I click on create smart material. Now this has become a new smart material. You see it here. It's called Wood Classroom Project. So it's going to be present for me in any project that I open, okay? So when I'm texturing my desk and my chair, all I have to do is click on it from here and drag, and that's going to save me a lot of time. So I realized I haven't even saved my project, right? I'll just click on file and save. Now I navigate to my project folder and I can create a new folder and call it SP files. Now I double click on this folder and I give this a name. So I can call this door window. Now I save the Substance Painter file. Okay. The next thing I want to do is that I want to export the textures. Okay. And to do that, I just click on file and I click on export textures. Now this screen pops up. Okay. And before I export, I'm going to have to adjust a lot of things. Okay. The first thing I want to do is that I want to click on my output templates here. Now there's a lot of templates for you to export as, right? The one I would like to use is the PBR metallic roughness. So it is here. I just click on it, okay? Now you see that I have about 5 maps here, okay? You should have 6. I think there should be an emission here, but it doesn't matter. We really don't need that, okay? Now, these 5 maps, the one I'm going to change here is the height because I really don't need height. You see, I need the base color, I need the roughness, I need the metallic, I need the normal, but I don't need height, okay? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to delete the height, all right? And now I can create a new map. To create that, I can just click on this create and gray. So I'll just click on this, okay? And for this, I'm going to set it to be the ambient occlusion, okay? Because we really need ambient occlusion. All right, now first thing I want to do is that I want to copy the name from here. So I just select all with Ctrl A and Ctrl C to copy. Now I paste it here, okay? But for this, instead of normal, I'm going to call it AO, okay? Now, I drag my mesh maps ambient occlusion. I just click on it and drag it over here and release, okay? Now, I'm going to select gray channel, and that's all, okay? I have my ambient occlusion. I think this is AOI, so I just delete that. Oh, I think it's an L, all right? Now I have my base color, roughness, metallic, normal, and AO. And I'm going to export like this, okay? Now I come back to my settings, right? Now I change my output template to PBR metallic roughness. So this is it, okay? Now, the next thing to do is to change my output directory, okay? So I click on the directory here and I navigate to my project folder and I create a new folder, and these are called textures. And in that folder, I create another folder. Now these I can call door window, and I open that folder, and this is going to be the folder, right? Now the next thing is the file type. For my file type, I'm not going to use the PNG, I'm going to use the tagger, okay? And for the size, I'm going to change it to 2K for now, okay? If it's 2 over K, we can scale down later, but I just leave it like that for now, okay? And yeah, that's all. So I just click on export. So my textures are done exporting, guys, and now I move to the next one. The next object I want the texture, like I said, is the floor, okay? Just so you understand why I made the adjustments I made. So I just click on file and I click on new and I select the floor underscore low, okay? And I open it. I change my resolution to 2K and leave everything as default and I open. Now, this is my floor, guys. You see, this is the floor underscore low. There's almost no details here, right? The only thing I did with this is that I subdivided it, okay? So you would see that I have a lot of faces here, about 49, okay? Now I'm going to tell you why I subdivided it. But for now, I want to import the high poly version of this so that I bake the details, okay? And to do that, I just go to my texture set settings, okay? And I bake mesh maps. Now, for these, if I click on my common settings, you will see that there's something called high poly parameters, okay? And it says high definition meshes, all right? So I'm going to import a mesh here, right? And to do that, I just click on this icon here, and now I click on my floor underscore high, and I open it. Okay, now this is what I have here. Okay, I have a low poly version and I have a high poly version. So when I'm baking, it's baking the details of the high poly version and casting it to the low poly version. Okay, so as usual, I just change my ambient occlusion secondary rays to 128, and I just bake textures. Now my baking is done, so I just return to painting mode. And now you see that my mesh is still my low poly mesh, but I have the details of the high poly mesh. Okay, this is really a flat surface, but I just have those details, the ambient occlusion and all the shadowing. And now for every smart material that I use, it's going to take into account this height that we have here. It's going to take into account the ambient occlusion. It's going to take into account these details we have here. That's why I like it like this. Now the next thing is to start with my texturing proper. So I'm going to delete the default layer here. And for the floor, I'm going to use plastic. Okay, I'm still going to use smart materials. So I just search for plastic. Well, first of all, I'm going to save the file. All right, and I'll just call it floor and save. Now it's done saving. So I'll just click on my smart material and search for plastic, and I go ahead and look for a material that I like to use. Okay, for this, I think I'm going to use this plastic dusty. Okay, so I'll just click on it and drag it. Just look at this, guys. Just look at this. You see how we took into account all the details that I baked. Okay, even though this is a flat mesh, all right, it looks good for now, but yeah, we're still going to add a lot of details. All right, now I open the folder and there's a lot of things I can change here. I'm still going to use this color palette, okay, to create a beautiful pattern here. Okay, and now to do that, you see this base color, I'm going to duplicate it twice. So I hit Ctrl D and I hit Ctrl D again. Okay, now this is just going to be base. I can just change it color 1, and for this color 2, and for this color 3. Okay, now for the color 1, it's going to be this dark color we have here. Okay, rich black. So I copy it and I paste it here. Okay, Ctrl V. Good. Now for the color 2, it's going to be, I think, this one. I want this one. Okay, Robin Egg Blue. So I just copy it. Now I click on the layer and the base color. I select it and I Ctrl V. Okay, now the color 1 is going to be the baby powder. So I copy it, I paste it here. Okay, just base color and Ctrl V. Good. Now this is it. Okay, so I'm going to add in a black mask to the color 3 and the color 2. So I just click on this icon here and add in the black mask, and to the color 2 I click on this icon and I add in the black mask. Now this is what I have for now. Okay, so I'm going to create a nice tiled pattern. Okay, so look, just feel free, go ahead to create anything you like. All right, but for me, I'm just going to keep it really simple. Okay, now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to click on my polygon fill. Okay, now this is the reason I added faces here. Okay, if I didn't add faces here, I would have just had one big face here. But now that I added faces here, you see that I can go ahead and select individual faces and just give them, I'll just use the faces to create a pattern, right? So now to create the pattern, I just click and drag over these faces, right? I think I like this, right? Now I come to my baby powder color, that's the white color. I click on the mask and I click over these faces and drag, right? And now I can invert the color by hitting X. You see, at the moment, my color is set to white. Okay, so if I hit X, you see now the color is set to black. Or you can just drag it, okay, but X will also work. You see, I'm hitting X, it's changing from white to black. Now I just invert the color to black, click, and just drag over here. Can you see this pattern? As easy as that. And you know that this is also a modular asset. So if I duplicate this and fill in our classroom with it, you can imagine how beautiful the tiles will look, right? Yeah, I think for the pattern, you see, I'm just going to keep it simple like this, as easy as that. Now, the next thing is the dead edges. For the dead edges, I can reduce the contrast, okay, by clicking on the mask of my dead edges and clicking on mask builder. And see, I just reduce the level a little bit because it doesn't need to be really dirty. Yeah, maybe 0.25 will work, okay? And I can just adjust the contrast to see what works. Yeah, so you see, I just reduce the contrast to maybe 0.1 or 0.11, just a value about there, right? And yeah, it looks good to me. But now the dust too, I don't like the way the dust is at the moment. No. So yeah, I'm going to see what I can do for the dust. Now for the dust, I'm obviously going to delete it because I really don't like it, okay? But yeah, I'm going to add a different type of dust or dirt around the tiles, right? So for that, I think I can go to my smart mask now. So the next icon we have is your smart mask, okay? Now you're going to have a lot of masks that you can use for things like these, okay? So for this, maybe I can use the dust soft, okay? Yeah, I can use dust. Yeah, so dust soft too. If I click on this mask and drag it over the mask, yeah, you see that now we have something that looks a whole lot better, okay? So if I hide it, look how it is now. Now I unhide it, okay? See, it makes a whole lot of difference, okay? Yeah, and this looks good for now, okay? This is just the reason I added those faces. And yeah, now it's time to export, okay? So I'll just click on File, Export Textures, and I click on my output templates to confirm that everything is okay. And yeah, you see everything is okay. I have my base color, roughness, metallic, normal, and AO, okay? So what I'm going to do is just to export. Now, my output directory, I'm going to set it to my project folder, classroom project, textures. I create a new folder, and this is going to be floor. And yeah, I double click to open the folder, and I select this folder. Now, my file type is going to be Targa, and my texture set size is going to be 1K because this is a really tiny object, right? We really don't need to make it 2K. Now I export this. So my texture is done exporting, right? So we move on to the next object. The next objects I'm going to be texturing are the walls, all right? So I just click on File, New, and then I select the FBX files, and then I open, okay? And for this, the document resolution, I'm going to set it to 2K and leave everything as default, and then I click OK and yeah, save this project. So these are my walls, right? You know, the first thing to do is to bake mesh maps, all right? I'll just bake the mesh maps. My ambient occlusion, change the secondary is to 1:28, and as easy as that. Now my mesh is done baking, so I return to painting mode. Now for this, I'm not going to use smart materials, okay? I'm going to create a fill layer. So I just delete this default layer we have here. The one I'm going to use is the fill layer, okay? So I just click on it to add a fill layer. Now these, I can double click and call wall paint. Now for these, I'm still going to use the baby powder color. That's this color here. So I still copy the hex and I paste it in the base color here. Now you see for my material as well, I don't need some maps here, okay? I don't need the emission. So I just uncheck emission, okay? I just click on it to make sure it's deactivated. If it's deactivated, you know, because you won't see an emission slider here. At the moment, I have an emission opacity slider, okay? So if I uncheck emission, you see that it is no longer here. And opacity as well, I don't need this. I also don't need height, okay? So I just need color, roughness, metallic, and normal for this. I really don't even need metallic, but I'm just going to leave it, okay? Yeah, for I adjusted the base color. Now for the roughness of the walls, I can just make it a little bit rougher, okay? Maybe 0.4. Yeah. Now the walls are good like this, right? But trust me, I'm going to add in a lot more details here. Now, first of all, what I'll do is to duplicate this layer twice, right? Now this is the wall paint. Now these, I'm going to call it the sketching board. This is going to have a different color, okay? And for these, I think I can call it wall paint 2, okay? Now the sketching board is going to have the rich black color. So I just copy the rich black and I'm going to paste in the color in the sketching board. So I just click on my base color and I paste it here, okay? Now for the wall paint 2, I'm going to use this turquoise color. So I just copy this hex color and click on my wall paint 2. I'm going to paste it in here. Good, right? Now I'm going to add in the black mask here, and I'm going to add in the black mask here as well. Okay, now I'm back to these, all right? Now I said I want the sketching board to have the rich black color. So in my black mask, I just select my polygon fill tool. Now since these are separate meshes on their own, if I use my mesh fill, I should be able to click on the sketching board and then it applies that color to it nicely, okay? So I do the same thing here, do the same thing there, and that should work for each of them, okay? For this, ooh, for this isn't working. Yes, sometimes this happens, so I'm just gonna undo it and try it again. And it still doesn't work. All right. So for this, I'm gonna use polygon fill or UV chunk fill. So let me try UV chunk fill. So I click on the last option, which is UV chunk fill. Now I click on it. Yeah, I think this is working. So I'm not gonna stress too much about it. I'm just gonna select all the individual UV islands. I'm gonna select this and maybe that inside. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing for the base. Select this, click on that, click on the base and the face inside. Yeah, so for our skating board, we are done. Now I want the wall window to have the turquoise color, okay? So I'll just click on the black mask of the wall paint too, okay? And for this, I'm still going to use the UV chunk fill, okay? So I select all the UV islands that we have here. Yeah, that's it. So this is how I want my wall paints to look like, okay? Now at the moment, you see that this looks too clean, okay? So I'm still going to add some more details here. Now, the first detail I want to add is roughness variation, okay? Because at the moment, yes, my object is smooth, but then it's uniformly smooth, okay? So to do that, you see, I'm just going to create a new fill layer, right? And for this, I'm just going to call it roughness variation, okay? And for this, I don't need the base color, I don't need height, I don't need anything else except roughness, okay? So I'm going to uncheck everything except roughness, and this is going to be really rough, maybe 0.75 or so, okay? Now I'm going to add in the black mask here, okay? Now the next thing to do is I'm going to click on my smart mask. I'm going to look for a mask I can use, okay, to break up the roughness that we have here. So I can just go ahead and look for one that I like, but I'm just going to use dust dirty, okay? So I click on dust dirty and I drag it over the black mask that I have here. And if you look closely, you see that yeah, I have some smoothness and roughness going on my walls. Yeah, I think it is much more obvious here. Okay. Yeah, so let's move on now. Now I'm going to add a level of depth to my walls, all right, because the walls are still too clean. So to do that, I'm still going to create a new fill layer. Now for this, I'm going to call it depth OCC. OCC stands for occlusion, okay, because these depths are the ones that are going to be on the crevices here, okay. So for this, I only need the color and the roughness. So I'm going to uncheck every other thing except the color and the roughness, okay. And for the base color, I'm just going to give it a nice brown color that feels like dirt, okay? And for the roughness, it's going to be really rough, set to a value of 1, all right? I'm going to add, you guessed right, a black mask. Good. Now, I'm going to come to well, I'm already here, my smart mask, and I can look for an occlusion depth that I can use. So I search for OCC. You see, I have dust occlusion and I have occlusion strong. So let me start with the dust occlusion. Yeah, and immediately you see that I have some dirt along the crevices, okay? So I can go ahead and adjust the dirt level, maybe increase it. Oh, this looks too much. So I just reduce it a little bit and yeah, somewhere around here. The contrast as well, you can play with it. Yeah, I think I like the contrast to be about this level is okay, okay? I'm not trying to go really crazy. You see, you have all this dirt along the crevices and that makes it look a lot more believable, right? Yeah. You see, if I hide it, you see the dirt no longer there. Now I unhide it, and it adds life to our objects, right? Yeah. So the next thing I want to add is still dirt, right? But now these dirts are going to be on the surface, and they're going to be really subtle because take a look, this wall is just too clean. Okay, the walls are really too clean still. So for that, I'm still going to add a fill layer, and for this, I can call it surface dirt. Okay, and I'm still going to check everything aside the color and the roughness, right? And for the base color, I'm still going to use brown, maybe a different shade of brown, and the roughness, yes, is still going to be set to a value of 1. And I'm also going to add a black mask to this, okay? Now for the smart mask, I'm going to use a dust soft. So I just click and drag it. Oh yeah, this looks good, right? This looks good. But how about dust soft too? So I'm going to try this one now. Wow, this looks even better. I think I prefer this one, okay? I really prefer this one. Okay, now let me hide it. Now it's hidden, it's unhidden. You see, it adds more life to our object, right? And now for the mask editor, I can go ahead and adjust the values to see what I like. Okay, for the global blur, I change that to 0. Yes, it's already at 0. For the global balance, yeah, I think I'm gonna reduce it a little bit, maybe set it to a value of 0.49, maybe just leave it at 0.5, right? The contrast, or the contrast, how about a value of 0.25? I'm really just eyeballing the values, okay? I don't have any definite values that I use. And I think I'm going to reduce this. Ooh, yeah, 0 is good. Right, so guys, for now, I'm really done with these walls, okay? If I have to make adjustments later, I will go ahead and do it, but I'm going to move on to the next object now. So I'm going to export these textures, right? File, I just export textures, okay? And I make sure my output template is PBR metallic roughness, so I select it from here. And I change my file type to Targa, and my texture size, set it to 2K. And now I change the output directory and navigate to my project folder, textures. I create a new folder, and this I call walls. Now I open the folder and I select it, okay? Now I'm going to export it. Yeah, so that's all, guys. Now we move on to the next object. The next objects I want to texture are the desks and the chair, right? So I'm going to import the FBX file. Just click on File, I create a new project, and I select the FBX file, desk underscore chair, and I open it. And this, the resolution, I'm going to set it to 2K, and I click OK. Now I have my desk and my chair, my teacher's table, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is to bake the mesh maps. So I'm going to click on Bake Mesh Maps. And as usual, my ambient occlusion, I set the secondary wave to 128, and I bake. Now my baking is done, so I return to painting mode. Now, if you want to cycle through your baked mesh maps, all you have to do is press B. So you see, at the moment, I'm currently set to my material, right? But if I press B, now this is my curvature map. I press B again, this is my position. I just hit B. B cycles through your baked mesh maps, okay? You see, this is ambient occlusion and all that, all right? Now, to come back to material, you just hit M, okay? Now, immediately, I want to start with the desk plastic. So the desk plastic is going to be for the legs, right? They're really tiny details, so I'm not going to waste much time here. So for the desk plastic, I just select it and I click on the layers, and now I delete this layer. I'm going to use the smart material as well. I'm going to use the plastic. So I just search for plastic, okay, and I have a lot of them here. But the one I want to use is plastic used soft, okay? This is it here, plastic used soft. I just click and I drag, okay? So yeah, this is it, okay? Well, I'm going to change the color, all right? I'm going to give it this color, the rich black. So I just copy the hex and I open my folder, and for the base, I change the color. I click on the color here and I paste in the hex value. Good. Now this is it, all right? So I think I'm going to make some other adjustments here. I don't like the fact that it is whitish, okay? And I think that should be caused by the white speckles. Let me see. Yeah, for the white speckles, I'm also going to delete the white speckles, but I know there's something else I need to delete here. Is it the edges? Yeah, it's the edges. I'm going to delete the edges as well. And for the soft depth, let me see. Yeah, for the soft depth, I'm just going to leave it. The roughness variation, okay too. The bump doesn't make much difference. The roughness variation here. Yeah, so I'm just going to leave it like this, okay? It's a tiny detail. I move on to the next. The next is the desk metal, all right? So I select it and I delete the layer. Now for the desk metal, I'm going to use a metallic smart material, okay? So I'll just search metal, and you see I have quite a lot of them here, right? The one I'm going to use is the steel painted scraped dirty. So this is it, right? Steel painted scraped dirty. So I just click and I drag it and I drop it here, right? Now for these, you see that I have a lot of adjustments to make, okay? First things first, I don't need the depth, right? So I'm just going to click on the depth and I delete it. The next thing that I don't need is the wear here, right? All the peeling off here. So this is caused by the black mask that is attached to the color, right? So for the black mask, I'm just going to click on it and right click, and I'm going to remove the mask. Now you see it is red, pure red, okay? Every other thing here I think makes sense. The roughness variation, yes. Sharpen, yes. So for these, The color that I'm going to use is the baby powder. So you see how I'm just cycling between these 5 colors, right? And in the end of the day, our scene is going to look really beautiful. All right. So I come back and I paste the color in here. Control V. Good. Now this is it. It looks right like that, right? And I like it. Now we move on to the next. The next is the desk underscore wood. So I select the desk underscore wood, okay, and I delete this layer. Now, you would recall that when I was texturing the bookshelf, okay, I created a new smart mask and I called it Wood Classroom Project. This is it right here, okay? So I'm going to click on this and drag it. And now I drop it here and instantly, you see, we really didn't have to waste much time here. But yeah, I'm still going to make a few adjustments here. Now, what I want to do here is that I don't want the wood fibers on this sides of the wooden pieces, right? So I'm also going to remove the wood fibers. And to do that, this is the wood fibers small, right? That's this. If I hide it, you see it's no longer there. Now I unhide it, it's there. So to do that, I'm going to click on the wood fibers black mask, right? And I'm going to click on this icon. It says add effects, right? So I click on it and I add in the paint layer. Okay. Now on this paint layer, I'm going to use my polygon fill and I'm going to set it to UV chunk fill because these sides are all one UV island. So you see if I click on this, now you see that my wood fibers are no longer here, right? You can see how it is, right? So the same thing I'm going to do for the chair and for the teacher's table too. I come back to my polygon fill and I just click once, make sure it's on UV chunk fill. And for this, I remember I mark seams twice, okay? So you see that I click on this and it's gone, but I have to do it again for the other side because this is a different UV island. I just click on it and just like that, it is gone, okay? Now, the next thing is the teacher's table, okay? And for this, you see, I'm just gonna click here, click there, and just click on all the edges like that. I don't need to worry about the bottom because it won't be seen, okay? I click this and that, and I think okay, yeah, this is good. So I click on this. Maybe this, maybe I can just go ahead and do everything just for the sake of it. I think this is good now, right? So you see how just like that we have our desk, chair, and our teacher's table textured without much effort, okay? We are moving on to the next object. It's going to be a really simple one. It's going to be the ceiling. But first of all, I have to export the textures, right? I click on save to save my project, right? And this I call it desk, chair, and I save it. Now to export the textures, I click on file, export textures, and I double check my output templates, PBR metallic roughness. Yeah, this is good. Okay, no, you see that my emissive and height is back. I think that's because I closed Substance Painter. I really don't know why it does that. So I'm just going to delete my emissive again. And for the height, yeah, just delete this. And now I create a new gray channel. So I click on gray and I copy the name from here and I paste it in here, okay? And for these, I delete the normal and replace it with AO, okay? And now I come to my mesh maps, I drag my ambient occlusion to this box here, and I choose gray channel, yeah, this is it. Now this is PBR metallic roughness, okay? So I come back and I make sure, yeah, my output template is set to PBR metallic roughness, okay? My file type is going to be Targa, right? And my texture size is going to be 2K, okay? Now I change the output directory. I navigate to my project folder. It's on my desktop, my textures. I'm going to create a new folder, and this I'm going to call desk chair. Now I open the folder, I select it, and I export. My textures are done exporting, so I can move on to the next object. Now the next object I said is going to be the ceiling, right? A really simple object. So I just click on File, New, and I select the FPX file as the ceiling. Open. Now this is going to be 1K. I'm going to click OK. I save this. Now this is my ceiling mesh, right? Now for the ceiling, you would realize that we would have also done the high poly to low poly baking, but there's no problem here, okay? The geometry here is really not much, so I can live with that, okay? This is going to be really simple. So I'll just delete this layer and I bake the mesh maps. Click on bake mesh maps, and yeah, this set to 128 and bake. All right, now my mesh is done baking, so I return to paint mode. Okay, and for these, I'm also going to use the smart material. That's the regular smart material we've been using. That's the wood Akajo, right? So I just click on it and I drag and drop it here. Now this is a good starting point, but you would realize that here some of the wood fibers are going vertically while others are going horizontally, right? And that's as a result of the rotation of my UV island, right? So at the moment, if I go to Blender and I rotate the corresponding island of these three faces you have at the top here, then it will be fixed. But there's another way to do it, okay? I'm going to show you guys the difference between UV projection and triplanar projection. So let's go on. Now I have my smart material here. I'm going to click on the folder to open it. Now for these, I really don't need a few of these layers here, okay? The first layer I'm going to delete is the stains. I don't need stains here. And I'm going to delete the wood fiber small as well. I really don't need these, okay? Now for the color, I'm going to change the color. I'm going to use the baby powder color as this one right here. Now I just paste the color in here and I copy the color to the color 2 as well. Now this is the color we have here, right? Now for my wood fibers medium, okay, I'm going to click on the mask here and I'm going to change the projection of the wood fibers one. At the moment it is set to UV projection, so it is taking into account my UV to project the textures on this mesh, right? But you see, if I change it from UV projection to triplanar projection, now it is no longer taking account of the UV. I think I can do this for the directional noise as well. I change the projection from UV to triplanar. Now you'd see that my wood fibers are all facing one direction, okay, because it is no longer taking into account the direction of the UV island. Instead, it is taking into account the position of my mesh here. So you see that if I rotate my gizmo here, my wood fibers are going to rotate, all right? As easy as that. Now that's just the difference between triplanar projection and UV projection. Basically, that's just the basics, okay? So for these, I think I'm going to change the color of these as well. It's brown. I don't want it to be brown, okay? I'm going to paste in that same baby powder color. Now this is it. Well, I can change the color of this slightly just to give a little variation, right? So I just click on the color here and I just drag this down a little bit so we just have a tiny bit of variation. And you see how this is looking good, right? Good. So now I'm done with this. The next thing I want to do is that, you see, I want my faces to be rough, right? While these wooden pieces that we have here, I want them to be smoother. So to do that, I'm going to click on my layer here because it is the one at the top. Now I'm going to add another fill layer. Okay, now it is added at the very top, okay? And I don't need the base color, I don't need the height, I really don't need anything aside the roughness, okay? Now this, I'm just going to call it roughness variation. Okay, good. Now I'm going to change my roughness to 1, right? So I slide it up, okay? And the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to add in a black mask, right? Now I'm going to use a polygon fill, and I can also use a polygon fill here, all right? Now I'm just going to select these 9 big faces that we have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Now if I come back to my paint mode, you see that the big faces are rough, right? While the wooden pieces here are smooth. So this is what we have, guys. You see, it's just a really simple mesh, right? And it looks good. So I'm going to save the file and I call this ceiling and I save it, okay? Now I'm going to export the textures. So I click on File, Export Textures. And since I didn't close this file, I believe our output template is going to be all right, okay? PBR metallic roughness. You see, it's all right, okay? So now I just change my output directory and navigate to my project folder, textures. I'm going to create a new folder, and this I call ceiling, okay? And I double click on the folder and I select the folder, right? Now my file type is going to be tagger. My texture set size is going to be 1K, okay? I'm going to set my output template to PBR metallic roughness here. Now I export, okay? So it's done exporting. Now that's all. The next objects I want to texture are our Blackboard and bulletin board. So for that, I just click on File, create a new project. I select the FBX files, boards, I open, and these, they're going to be 2K, okay? And I click OK, I save. Now these are our boards. Now this is going to be really fun. So first thing I'm going to do as usual is to bake the mesh maps, okay? So texture set settings, I bake the mesh maps, and these I set to 128, okay? And I'm going to bake as 2K. My output size is going to be 2K. So I bake selected textures. Okay, now my mesh maps are done baking, so I return to painting mode. And for this, the first thing I'm going to do is to save the file. So I call this boards and save. All right, so for this, I'm going to start with the board underscore wood. That I believe is the material for the wooden pieces at the edges here, right? Exactly. So I come back to my layers tab and I delete this default layer. So for this, I'm also going to use a smart material. So I'm going to search for wood. And the one that I'm going to use is this wood chest stylized, okay? So I click on it and I drag and I drop it here. Now, this is it, okay? Immediately you see that the wooden fibers are following the wrong direction, okay? So I'm going to have to rotate it, all right? So to do that, I just click on this folder to open the smart mask, and I believe I'm going to have to rotate the fibers, right? Exactly. So I click on the fibers, and for the rotation, it's 90 degrees. So I just change it to 0, and instantly you see that this makes a lot of sense. And I see that I have another fiber here. That's the wood fibers O2. Okay. So I believe I also have to rotate these. So I just click on the wood fibers mask. I click on the wood pattern, and for these I have to change the rotation to 0. And yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Now I'm just going to leave this for now, okay, because I want to focus more on the board, and this in itself doesn't look bad at all, but if I have to make adjustments, I'll do it later. But for now, you see, I'm good with this. It is just really simple, okay? I'll come back to this later. I want to focus on the board now. Now I just click on the board, and for this, I'm also going to use the smart material, and it's going to be this wood beach paint, okay? So I just click, drag and drop it here. Exactly. Now this is a good starting point for me, okay? So I'm going to open it, and the first thing I want to do is that I want to duplicate this by clicking on it and hitting Ctrl D. Now for this, I'm going to call it Blackboard, okay? So I just double click on it and call it Blackboard, all right? Now for this, I'm going to double click on it and call it Notice Board, all right? As easy as that. Now for the blackboard, obviously I'm going to change the color to something dark, okay? I'm just going to change the color like this, and I think this is okay, all right? Now for the notice board, I'm also going to add a black mask, all right? Now I can see my blackboard better. And I'm going to delete all these other layers, the wood fibers, the wood veins, and the dirt. I'm going to delete them, okay? Now I'm left with something like this. Now for the notice board, I make sure the black mask is selected, and I use my polygon fill and I select this face here. Okay, now you see that my notice board material is applied here and my blackboard material is applied to the blackboard. Okay, now for the bulletin board, I'm going to change this material. Okay, so I'm going to click on my notice board and I'm going to change the substance material mode. Okay, so I'm just going to click on it. Now I'm going to search for paper cardboard, right? It should be this material here. I'm going to use this material instead. Now you see this looks better instantly, okay? It looks more like notice board material. All right, so let me focus on the blackboard for now. Now for the blackboard, I'm going to add 3 more fill layers, okay? So I'll just click on my fill layer 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. Now I can hide the top 2 for now. I'm going to focus on this one. Now for this, I'm going to call it chalk OCC. OCC means occlusion, okay? So you'll see what this does in a bit. Now for this, I'm going to change the color to white, all right? And I don't need the height for this. I don't need opacity. I don't need the emission. I'm just going to leave color, roughness, and normal. I don't even need the metallic, all right? Now for this, I'm going to add the black mask, all right? And I'm going to add a smart mask. And the smart mask that I'm going to use is called dirt cavities, okay? So I click on it and I search for dirt cavities, Okay, now this is the smart mask I will use. See what happens when I add the smart mask. So I just click and drag it and drop it here. Okay, now you see the behavior that I get. Okay, I get these chalk stains at the crevices here. All right, I'm just going to make some adjustments here. For this, I really don't need this here. So for the notice board layer, I'm going to drag this layer to the top. Oopsie, I'm trying to drag it. Exactly, I'm going to drag that layer to the top, okay, so that these fill layers don't affect this material here. Now for this, I'm just going to adjust some settings, okay. I'm going to play around with the sharpen, with the mask builder, with the paint, and see how I can make this look better. So I'm going to start with the sharpen. Okay, sharpen. I don't really need to change anything here, so I'm just going to leave it at 0.25. Okay, now for the mask builder, I think this is where I'm going to have to adjust a lot. Okay, yeah, now the level, you see, if I increase and decrease the level, you see the behavior it gets, right? So I think a level of 0.35 thereabout will do for me. Yeah, and the contrast as well, I can play around with it. For the contrast, I'll just leave it at 0.3. Okay, and for now, this is good. Okay, if we have to make adjustments, we'll still come back to it. Okay, now for the second layer that I created, I'm going to call this chalk text. All right, and this is also going to be a white color. All right, and for these I also uncheck height, opacity, emission, and metallic. I just need color, normal, and roughness. And I'm going to add the black mask here. For my chalk text, I'm going to write a text here, right? So to do that, I'm going to select a brush. So I click on my brush icon, and the brush I'm going to use is my chalk strong. Okay, at the moment the size is too big, so I press the open square bracket to reduce the size. Okay, and now in my black mask, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this icon and I'm going to add the paint layer. Right, I'm going to click on it and I'm going to add another paint layer. Now for this paint layer, I can double click on it and I rename it strong. Okay, and for this other one, I double click on it and I rename it faint. Okay, now I'm going to start with the faint. Okay, so I make sure that my faint paint layer has been selected. Right, now I'm going to write the text. So I'm going to pause this video right now and just write the text and come back. So I'm done writing the text for the faint. Right, now for this, I'm going to change the opacity to 1. So I just click on this drop down here and slide it down to 1, or I can just click on this button and change the value to 1, something like this. It's okay, right? Now for the strong, I'm going to write another text here. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video again and write another text here. Now I'm done writing the text for the strong, right? So we are making progress. Now the next thing I want to do is that I'm going to click on the faint paint layer, right? And I'm going to click on my smudge tool. Okay, and with my brush tab, there's a particular brush that is called blur, right? So I'm just going to look for it and select it. That should be under B, exactly, blur here. Okay, so I'm just going to select it. Now remember, I'm on my faint paint layer, right? So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, and well, for this I can just increase the opacity so that I can see it clearly for now. Okay, I'm just going to go over it and blur it a little bit. All right, just a little bit here and there. Yeah, so you see I'm just blowing it here and there. Okay, I just want to make it look believable. All right, now yeah, I'm just going to leave it like this. Now for the opacity, I bring it back to 1. Okay, this is it, this is it. Okay, now for the strong, I'm also going to blow it a little bit, and for this I'm going to reduce the flow to maybe a value of 5. All right, note that for the faint, the flow was at 10. All right, now I'll just reduce it to 5 for this, and I just blow it a little bit, ever so slightly. Yeah, something like this, just here and there. All right, maybe blow here, and maybe here, and maybe there. How about here? Exactly. Okay, and here too. Just blow it a little bit. Yeah, so this is good for now. Now moving to the third fill layer that we created, I'm just going to unhide it, and this I call it chalk white. Okay, and I'm also going to change the color of this to white. All right, and I uncheck metallic, emission, opacity, and height. Okay, and for this I'm going to add a black mask. All right, and I'm going to look for a smart mask to use. The smart mask I'm going to use is called Death Soft 2. So it should be somewhere around here. Oh, it's actually called Dust Soft 2. So I just click on it and I drag it and I hover over my chalk wipe and I drop it here. Now this makes a tiny difference, okay? It is so subtle, so you might not see it, but you see when I hide it and unhide it, there's a little difference. So I can adjust some settings here, okay? Maybe the global blur, increase it and reduce it. This doesn't really do anything. How about the global balance? Yeah, so as soon as I increase my global balance, you see that it's different. Okay. Oh, this is it. All right. So for this, I'm just gonna reduce it. Maybe a value of zero point 0.9 would do. Okay. Yeah. Now the board looks whiter, and this is good. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna add a paint layer here. All right. And I'm gonna look for a brush. Maybe I can use a dirt brush or a cement brush. Let me try the cement brush first. So I select the cement brush, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure the paint is set to black. Okay, so I just hit on X. And when I hit on X, you see it changes to black. Okay, and I can just paint over slightly. Okay, just so that I break it up a lot. All right, so I'm just painting over, nothing too fancy here. Okay, I'm just painting over. Yeah, this looks good. Maybe I can now change it to white and oopsie, yeah, this is too much, you see. So I just reduce the flow to maybe a value of 1. Yeah, and you see, yeah, this still feels too much. But yeah, don't worry. I'll just go ahead and do what I have to do here, okay? Just maybe here and there, just paint exactly. Now this looks good, right? Now change it to black and you can start to clean it up a bit. And for this, I'll have to increase the flow to maybe 5. Yeah, you see, this does a pretty good job for us. So I'm just cleaning it up, okay? I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just cleaning it up. The flow can be of a higher value, right? Maybe 10. Clean it up. Yeah, exactly. Now this is it. So I like the result that I have so far, okay? It looks really good to me. Now you would observe immediately that from my wood here, it's too clean, okay? Normally, this is chalk, okay? So when you write on this board or when you wipe the board, particles of chalk should fall on this wooden surface here, right? So to texture this surface, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy a layer from here and paste it in my board wood, okay? So the layer I'm going to copy is my chalk OCC, right? Well, you can really copy any of the 3 layers, okay? It doesn't really matter here. So I just select the layer here. I hit Ctrl C, okay? Now I come to my board wood, right? And I just paste it here, Ctrl V, okay? Now it is here, all right? And this is what we get, but now this is really not what we want, okay? So for the mask, I'm going to clear the mask, all right? So I just select on the mask, right click and I clear the mask. Now this is what we have, okay? So what I'll do is that I will add another paint layer. All right, now I'm going to paint over this paint layer. Now the brush I'm going to use, I think I can still use a chalk brush, right? So you see, I'm just painting over. Oopsie, my color set to black, so I just hit X. Now it's at white, okay? Now you see, as soon as I paint over, you start to see the result that we get. All right, so I'm just going to pause the video here and I'm going to paint over the wooden piece that we have here, okay? And I'm going to paint over maybe the sides and the top too. Yeah, and I'm going to come back. So I'm going to pause the video now. One thing to note is that as you're painting, you might want to adjust the settings of your brush, okay? So you see my brush settings here. I can adjust the size of the brush from here. I can adjust the flow here. I can adjust the opacity and all that. But what I want to adjust in this case is the size jitter. Yeah, for this, I just make sure it's at 0, okay? And for the flow, okay, it's just going to be at 100. The angle is still going to be at 180. Now for the alignment, I'm going to change it from tangent to camera, okay? In that way, my brush doesn't align to the normal of the object, okay? My brush remains aligned to my camera, and now I can go ahead and paint over. So I'm back, guys, and this is it. You would see that all I did was just to paint over the wood material, right? I just painted here and there. It's not perfect, but it works, right? And now this looks a lot better, okay? It looks like there's particles of chalk that is everywhere, and yeah, it makes sense. One other thing I'll do is that for this layer here, I'm just gonna check the height, okay? Because I want to increase the height a little bit. So this is just going to be, you see, that's too much. Maybe a value of 0.1 would do. 0.1 exactly. Now I'm going to come back to my board underscore black, and I'm going to do the same thing. Okay. So for my chalk text, I'm going to check the height, and the height is going to be a value of 0.1 as well. Yeah, this looks a lot better. Oh, this even feels too much, but yeah, I'm just going to leave it like this. Okay. And now for my chalk OCC, you see that I can make this more intense. Okay. Is really just up to me. All right. So let me see what I can do here. For the mask builder, I think I can adjust some settings here. Maybe the level. Oh, not quite. Yeah, I think something like this will do. And the contrast, I'll just reduce the contrast a little bit. Okay. And I can also paint over this layer. Okay. So I just add the paint layer here as well. Maybe I can even drag this paint layer up, and I'm still going to use my chalk strong and just paint here and there a little bit. So I change my alignment to camera, and now I just hit X. Ooh, this feels too much. I just reduce the size and just paint a little bit. I can use the cement brush actually for this. Okay. I change my alignment to camera as well, and let me see how this goes. Yeah, this is really not bad. Okay, I'm just really just painting here and there, and if this feels too much, I can reduce it. For here too, I can just paint. Okay, I think I need to reduce my position jitter at this point, so I'm just going to slide it down to 0. Okay, and this point too, I'm really just painting. Okay, I'm not doing anything too special here, just painting over, painting, ooh, painting. Yeah, and take a look at this, guys. This looks, yeah, a lot realistic. Okay, but I'm still not done. All right, now I'm just gonna clean some of the excess here. So I hit X to invert the colors. Now the flow, I'm going to increase the flow to maybe 40, 50 thereabout. All right, I increase the size too, and I just clean. All right, I'm just cleaning the excess, just cleaning a little bit, so it's not too much. Okay, just one stroke would do for this. One stroke is enough. Just cleaning here and there. These two, yeah, 1 or 2 strokes is really enough for this. Yep. So guys, this is my blackboard and my notice board. All right, so I'm going to export the textures now. So file, export textures, and I'm going to double check my PBR metallic roughness, and this is okay. All right, so now my output directory, I'm going to navigate to my project folder, textures. I create a new folder. I call it boards. Okay, now I double click to open the folder, select it. For my file type, I change it to Targa. For my texture size, I change it to 2K. And for my output template, PBR metallic roughness, and I export. So at this point, I'm done texturing my objects for now, guys. In the next videos, we'll go into Unreal Engine and set up our scene and apply all our textures and see how our classroom looks for now. So see you in the next video.